All right. So to begin, back up to my chair and make sure I'm visible. To begin, we're going to do a little bit of a warm-up. This is called the Quadrant Wake-Up. Some of you may have done this with me in a past class. Again, you can do this seated or standing. So all we're going to do is take our hands and begin to pat or tap a leg. Pick a leg, whichever leg you want to do. So if you're standing, you're going to come down like this and start to tap up and down the leg. Now, if tapping doesn't feel good in your body, you can do a little light tap like this, or you could do a squeeze, or you can do a pat or a stroke. And I want you to see today if you can start to really cover all of the leg that you're able to reach. So you feel as though you've touched all of the leg. If you're able to pick up the foot and get to the bottom, you can do that too. And it might feel good to do a little bit of a vigorous slap, or you might want to be really light and gentle. It's really up to you what the touch is going to feel like. And then when you feel like you've had enough of that, let's pause for a moment. And if you'd like, you can close your eyes. And I want you to see if you can notice, what am I feeling in one leg versus the other? What do I notice in that leg now? Does one leg feel different from the other leg? Does one leg feel like it's a little more awake or aware? Does it feel like it's bigger in your mind? Just taking a moment to notice, and it's also okay if you don't notice anything at all. We're just looking to see what's there. And then when you feel ready, we'll move to the other leg. So you can start finding your way with touch down and up the leg. Again, if you're standing, you can get a little creative about how you reach down there. If you're able to reach the foot, sometimes that's a challenge for balance, or sometimes it's tough to be able to pick up the foot. See if you can. And let the touch be something that feels kind of good to you. Sometimes it feels a little strange. If you've never done this before, it might feel weird. Like, this isn't something I would normally do. See if you can be a little curious or interested in the experience. Remember that the touch could also be a squeeze, or it could be like a little bit of a stinging slap. If that feels good, especially on those bigger muscles, they can take a little more pressure. And then when you've gone up and down the leg, maybe you did the back of the hip and the side of the hip too, we'll pause. And just for a moment, see if that other leg now has come a little bit more into awareness. See if you can be a little more awake or aware, or does the other leg feel now like it matches that first leg in size or intensity or the space it's taking up in your brain? And now we're going to move on to the arms. So pick a hand and start to move up and down the arm. And while we're doing that, I'm just going to let somebody into the room. There we go. And remember, again, it could be a big touch, or it could be a light touch, like little prickly fingers up and down. You may have a part of the arm that's feeling really sensitive, like an injury, or maybe you're working with arthritis, or you've got some part where you need to be a little more tender and caring. I'm going to just give a little squeeze around my biceps because that feels good when I get there. And all we're trying to do here, the science behind this is we're waking up all of the receptors in our skin that tell our body, tell our brain what our body is doing and what it's feeling. Take a moment with the fingers and the hands, maybe even rubbing one hand over another, maybe gently touching or stroking all of the fingers so that that hand now feels that touch. See if you can do the back of the shoulder as best you can reach. And maybe you even reach the arm up a little bit and do the armpit, the underarm, the front of the chest. And then again, I'm going to invite you to pause and feel. And see if that arm feels a little more awake or aware. So it's called the Quadrant Wake-Up because we're waking up the 4 quadrants of our body. And now we've done 2 of them. And we're going to move on to the 4th, the last arm. So begin your journey up and down the arm. There are certain parts of our body that have more of these receptors. The fingers have the most. Fingers and feet have a lot. The back does not have much. Your lips, your face have a lot, as you might imagine. But there are parts of our body that don't take in as much sensation. So one more time, make sure you've got the fingers and the hands, maybe gently, maybe even with a little love, if you can find that, a little kindness toward that hand that does so much for you. And then one more time, we're just going to pause and feel and notice. Good. See if you can just be aware of the arms and the legs now. Before we move on to finish the rest of the body here, see if you can just ask yourself, do I feel a little more aware overall than I did when I sat down at my computer today? And now we'll finish the quadrant wake up by bringing in the torso. So I'm just going to start right here in the chest and do a little light tapping. I'm going to come in so I can just show you this touch here. Just a little alternate tapping, fingers tapping right here in the sternum very lightly. And then you can do the throat. You can do across the collarbones here. You can do the back of the neck. And I'm doing a little light tap on the back of my head here. Up and down the neck. You can also give yourself a light rub or a squeeze if that feels good. A little self-massage. And then you're welcome. I'm going to invite you to take this anywhere that we haven't been yet. See how it would feel to maybe touch the ribs. Maybe a little rub around the ribs. Maybe the back. I like to do a little thwack against the back with the thumb side of my hand. So I'm just gently touching in there, doing the backs of my hips. Every place that I can think to touch that I haven't touched yet that feels comfortable or appropriate for me to do. Some people don't like to touch the stomach. If you feel okay with it, you're welcome to, but anything that doesn't feel good, please don't do. And then I'm going to ask you to see if you can find some place to place your hands on your body that feels kind of nice. So I'm going to put one hand on my leg. That feels good. That feels like a kind touch. And then my other hand, I'm going to rest right here on my bicep. That feels good to me too. And I'm just going to feel with my two hands now what it feels like to rest my hand on my body in a pleasant way. So many of us are in a time where it's difficult for us to see others. It's more challenging certainly than it was a year and a half ago. And sometimes touch is something that's really missing from our lives. We may not be able to get as much touch as we used to. So see if, I know this might be a little challenging, but see if with your hands you can express a little kind touch here as though you were touching someone you love. Take a moment or two just to breathe here and notice what happens in your body with this, if anything does. For some of us, this might feel like it's not relevant or it's not useful. But for some of us, this is going to feel like a resource we might be able to use somewhere else or some other time in our lives. So just take a moment with it if you like. And with everything that we do, the invitation is just to notice and be curious. And if something doesn't work for you, you can put it out in the recycling. All right, so let's move on from here. We're going to do a little work with the neck. Again, we're still seated or standing. So if you've been standing and you want a little break, come down to sit at any time. These are just some easy neck circles. We're going to drop the chin toward the chest, bring the chin over to your right collarbone, drop the right ear to the right shoulder, and then we're doing a little half circle across the sky until the left ear comes to the left shoulder, chin comes to your left collarbones, and then we're back around to center. So as you're circling, please keep in mind that I really only want you to be moving in a range of motion that's comfortable for you. So if anything feels painful, please don't do it. Please don't work through pain here. It's so important, especially if we are experiencing a lot of pain. It's really important that we start to find the places that aren't painful. And as we do that, sometimes we can start to expand those edges a little bit. Let's take one more circle around with the head in this direction. It doesn't need to be a big movement. We're just looking for a pain-free movement. And the next time you come back to center, let's circle the other way. Now, I'm going to give you an option here as you're circling to start to pay more attention with your eyes. So now as you're circling around, if your eyes are open, See if you can notice with your eyes what you're seeing. And notice that maybe the first time that we did this, you weren't noticing what your eyes were seeing because you were focused on sensation or technique. So just see what it brings to it, to circle around and look with the eyes. Good. The next time that you come back to center, let's pause for a moment there. Shake it out a little through the shoulders if you like. Nice. And now we're going to work a little bit with the arms. We'll start by reaching the arms out to the sides like this. We'll be playing a little bit with the arms in our postures today. And the first thing that we're going to do is roll the left shoulder forward. Now, as you shrug that shoulder forward, the left hand might even turn up, but it's really a movement of that whole arm. Then we'll roll that shoulder back over and keep turning until it goes as far as it can go. The palm turns up. Now we'll do the opposite. With your right arm, shrug the shoulder forward and then shrug it back so it rolls over as your left arm does the opposite. So as you roll your left shoulder back, the right shoulder rolls forward and the palms are turning. As you roll your right shoulder back, the left shoulder rolls forward. Now I'm doing a little lean with my head. You can explore that if you want to too, just reaching a little bit with the head in one direction and then another as we turn the arms up and over. It's okay if you have clicking in your arm. My shoulder's making a lot of noise today. Just make sure that it's not painful. Let's do one more wherever you are. And then we'll come back to rest for a moment. If you're standing, arms could be by the sides. If you're seated, just let the hands rest naturally wherever they are. We'll take a breath in and out. Good. Take 2 more breaths here. See if you can notice now how the breath is feeling as you breathe in through the nose and breathe out through the nose. What do you feel or notice in your body since we've been moving a little bit more? From here, we're going to work a little bit with the ribs. So if you're able to bring your hands to your ribs, go ahead and do that. If this is difficult for your fingertips to touch here, that's okay. You don't need to have your hands here. Again, we're still seated or standing, so it's up to you. Now we're going to try to imagine a typewriter, the kind of typewriter we had before they were electric, and how the carriages would go left and right. Do you remember that? So with your ribs, I want you to slide your ribs like a typewriter over to the left and then try to go over to the right. So we're sliding side to side like the carriage on a typewriter. Good. Now, if you're standing, you have the challenge of trying not to move the hips. Sometimes the hips want to come along for the ride. So you might even put your hands on the hips if you're standing and see, can I keep the hips from moving and ask the ribs to move on their own? If you're seated in the chair, the hips can't move, so you have a little bit of an advantage there. Now, the next time that you slide your ribs to the left, let's reach those arms again, and then slide the ribs to the right. The arms make it feel, keep going side to side. The arms are going to make it feel like you're going further than you are, which is kind of fun. Now, as you reach with the left arm, turn your right shoulder forward so that palm comes up and look to the left. And then we'll come back to center, roll the right shoulder forward, reach with the right arm to the right as the left shoulder rolls forward. Sorry, my lefts and rights are confusing. So we're going side to side, turning the palms and reaching. We'll do another time or two, just putting together these things that we've played with a little bit so far. And you can let the head reach in the direction of that reaching arm if you like. We'll do one more to the left and one more to the right. Good, and then bring it back to center. And again, just take a moment if you can to feel and notice the body here. Breathing in and breathing out. Just taking a moment. So often we rush to the next thing before we take the time to really integrate what we're feeling and noticing. So some of the things you might check in with here are, how's my neck right now? How's my breathing feel? Is there anything in my body that I need to attend to? Like, am I thirsty? Do I need to drink some water? Do I need to use the restroom? How can I take care of myself right now? When you feel ready, we're moving on for a few half sun salutations. Now, these can be done seated or standing. I'll show them seated first. Those of you who are standing, if you know them, you can follow along. Otherwise, I'll stand up and show it in a moment. From wherever you are, we're reaching the arms up overhead, maybe a big circle. Then the hands come through the heart as we fold forward. You're just going as far forward as you can. Let your spine drape downward if it feels okay. Slide your fingers up the shins and lift the chest, maybe even looking for a little bit of a back bend here. And then the hands glide back down as we drop into the forward fold. Now we come back up to stand. Reach the arms wide if you like, all the way up. Really nice, everybody. Good. And then hands through the heart. So we're going to do that a few more times. If you're standing, it goes like this. Arms overhead. It's the same in a chair. And we bow forward. The difference is just what the legs are doing. Slide your fingers up your shins. Look forward here. So see if you can find a little lift. And then slide the hands back down, however far they go. To come up, we push the feet into the floor. Use the legs if you can. Reach the arms overhead. And then slide the hands back through heart center. Let's do 2 more times now that you know it really well. I know you're all veterans. Or everyone that spoke up was a veteran. Forward fold here. But sometimes people do different things differently. So lift the chest and slide forward. All the way back up with the arms, reaching tall. Maybe this time looking up if it feels okay for the neck. And then hands back through the heart. Let's take 1 more of those. Arms overhead. Bow forward. Find that length through the spine as you lift. And then slide yourself down. You can let the spine round here. Let it kind of hang. All the way back to stand. Arms can reach, maybe a big circle up with the arms. Really beautiful, everybody. And then the hands come back through the heart. Pause for a moment to feel and breathe. 1 more breath in and out here. Breathing in. And then through the nose, exhaling through the nose if you can. Really good. We're moving on to a little bit of a dancing warrior sequence. I'm going to show you the chair version first, and then I'll show you standing. So we're coming into warrior 2 here. In a chair, it looks like this. We'll start with the right leg bent, and I'm moving the right leg out to the right, and then trying to straighten the left leg as much as I can. Now, this really depends on your body and the chair. So I've got, my legs are comfortably spread so that I'm getting a little stretch through my inner thighs. My right knee is bent. My left leg is a little straighter. Again, it depends on you and your body. It's okay if it's bent. And then we're adding the arms out to the sides. If you're standing, the pose would look a little bit more like this. So I still have right leg bent, left leg straight, and the arms are reaching. So I'll show the sequence from a seated position. You can do whatever feels best for you. For dancing warrior, we drop the left arm down the left leg and reach up through the right arm. Take 2 breaths here. So this is sometimes called Exalted Warrior. You may be experiencing a stretch through the side of the body. And then when you feel ready, let your exhale carry your right elbow down to the thigh, and the left arm reaches up over the ear. If the elbow doesn't come comfortably to the thigh, you can do the hand. Some of you may be comfortable taking the hand a little lower, maybe to the floor or a block, whatever works best for you. Now we go back and forth between the 2. Sweep your left arm back, reach the right arm toward the sky, maybe looking for a little more stretch through the side of the ribs. And elbow to knee. Now I'm going to ask you to move at a pace that feels good for you. If you want to move at the same pace that I am, you're welcome to. Exalted Warrior, arm reaches up. And side angle pose, arcing over the ear. Really nice. We'll do 1 more time each side. This is one of my favorite sequences. I love the feeling of putting breath and movement together. I love the feeling of stretching through the sides of the body. Let's come into our warrior two for a moment, pause. And then let the arms rest by the sides. You can walk the legs in if you like. Take a moment to shake it out. If you're standing, you might even shake out the legs a little bit. We're coming to the second side, but not until you feel really ready. Sometimes even little movements like this, you were standing, was a bigger movement for sure. Sometimes these movements are a little bit like, we can feel like we're a snow globe that's been shaken up. We get kind of stirred up inside here. We can feel that activation. So before we come to the second side, I want you to see if you can let the snowflakes settle out a little bit. And ask yourself, do I feel ready to do the second side? And the answer might be yes, of course, right away. Or you might find, like, no, I need another moment. So take whatever time you need in your body today. And when you do feel ready, we'll bend the left leg and have the right leg straight. Whether you're seated or in a chair. If you're on a chair, you'll probably have to be right on the edge. And then the arms come out to the sides. Good, take a moment here. See if you can feel your arms, feel your legs, feel the torso. Remember that quadrant wake-up, that movement we did where we patted or moved all around the body with our hands. See if you can bring that same awareness now here into the body. And then when you're ready, we can move, if you like, dancing warrior. Left arm stretching up over the ear. And elbow to knee. Stay longer if you like. See if you can notice where there's sensation. Where it feels good, if it does. The work that we're doing here is not just for our body, but it's really for the mind and body connection, so that we start to become a little bit more aware of how we move and how our movement affects what we're experiencing inside and vice versa. So that we become a little more self-aware. Sometimes this can be really helpful in sort of regulating our emotions and finding ways to support ourselves better when we need it. The next time that you drop your left elbow to the left knee, we'll come slowly back into our warrior two. Feel your fingers, feel your toes if you can, feel your neck and your shoulders, and then let the arms float down. Walk the feet in if you like. You can shake it out for a moment. And we're moving now into a triangle pose. So we haven't done triangle pose in this class yet. If you know it, you don't need to listen to the little spiel about it. If we're doing it in a chair, I'm going to show you the chair variation. We're asking now the right leg to point to the right, and we're going to try to straighten that leg a little bit more. So we've got two straight-ish legs. Now, you may be able to straighten it completely and still feel balanced. Most of us are probably going to need to keep a little bend in that leg, so play with that. Then take starting with the right leg, take your left elbow, bend your left elbow so the left arm comes behind the back, and then we're dropping the right arm down to the inner leg here. So if you need to, you're welcome to rest the elbow on the thigh, or you're letting the arm drop to the inside, which is a little bit of a different feeling. Let me show you standing. If we're standing, left arm is behind the back, the right arm is sliding down the leg. Maybe it's coming to a block, maybe it comes toward the floor of the foot. So it looks a little different seated, of course, just because we've got a chair in play. But we're still maybe finding a stretch through the inner thigh. We're finding maybe a stretch across the front of the left shoulder here. Take one more breath where you are. And then slowly pull yourself back up to stand or sit, and then unwind that arm. If it feels like it's a little tingly or numb, shake it out. And remember that we don't need to go so long if it feels like it's too long for that arm in that position. Coming to the second side when you're ready, take a moment if you like to shake out any snow globe, snowflakes that are still settling. And then the right arm weaves around the back. Now, right away on this side, I'm getting a big stretch. Feels okay to me, but if it were painful, I wouldn't want you to do it. Then the left arm extends down toward the floor on the left side, and we're leaning the shoulder toward the leg. So we're stretching into the side of the body, and we're asking this arm, your right arm, if it can, to be in a slightly different position than it might normally do. Again, if we were standing, it's the same thing. See if you can allow your left ear to drop a little bit more toward the shoulder. You may even experience a stretch to the side of the neck. If that feels uncomfortable or unsupported, just make a change until it's right for you. We've got one more breath here. And then bend the knee back to your more neutral position. We'll unwind the arm, wiggle around for a moment if you like. Whew. Sometimes what helps to sort of shake that snow globe and then settle it out is to actually move the body. So I often do a little shoulder shake or a hand shake to help things settle out. Our last standing pose is going to be goddess. So for goddess pose, the feet step a little bit wide again. Now we've got both legs going a little bit wide. If you're standing, it's the same thing, but you decide how much you bend your knees, right? So if you're standing and the knees are very bent, it's going to feel a little bit intense. You work with your body. Take the elbows out to the sides if it feels okay. And then we're doing elbows together and elbows apart. Good. 4 more of those. Let's try breathing in as the arms come together. Breathing out as the arms come apart. Breathing in. And breathing out. 2 more. Good, really nice. 1 more time. In and out. Good, keep the legs where they are. If it feels okay, reach the arms wide. Circle the arms in front of you and out to the sides. Good, keep going, circle. Maybe the other arm crosses in front. Good. 2 more times. See if you can put the opposite arm in front as you circle. Last one, opposite arm in front. Good. Hands to the legs. If you are standing and your legs have been bent this whole time, slowly straighten them. If you're in the chair, take your time, bring the legs in and move them around. That's a long time in that goddess pose. Really good work. We've got a little back bend coming up. This is one of my favorites. The standing variation we call standing camel pose. It's going to be the same in the chair. So wherever you are, whether you're seated or standing, I'm just showing you the side view. I'm going to take the hands right here to the hips. Find a little engagement through the abdominal muscles. Imagine that somebody were coming in to tickle you and you pull back just a little bit. So there's just a light sense of bracing there. Now the shoulder blades squeeze together and down. And there's a little bit of a lift in the chest, almost as though you're arcing back over a big ball. So if you were standing, you can let the hips move a little bit forward. And we're going to encourage you, those of you who are standing, to drop your tailbone down so you feel as though your lower back is not doing all of the work. If you are in a chair and you're able to reach back with the hands and hold on to the seat or the back of the chair, that can be quite helpful here. And then you're going to look in whatever direction feels good for you. So whether that's up at the sky or down towards your chest, or the head drops in a different direction, you can play with that. Then we'll come back to center and pause and breathe for a moment. It can feel really stimulating or invigorating to do those back bends. So notice what you're feeling. And then we're going to do just 1 more of those. If you want to try something different, those of you who are, actually this works either way, if you're seated or standing, you can play with taking the hands to the heart, pull in a little bit through the belly, and then think about Imagine that you're going back over a high jump bar, like an Olympic athlete going back over a high jump bar. So just below the shoulder blades, we start to arc back a little bit more. Keep breathing. Feel your feet on the floor. Make sure that you're not moving into a range of motion that feels painful or is difficult so that you can't breathe. We'll take just one more breath wherever you are. And then back to a neutral position. Go ahead, let the hands rest. And it might feel good to move around a little bit here. So most of us will have an instinctive feeling like, oh, it would feel good to round my back, maybe a little bit of a twist. You can see what feels good for you. Now we're all going to come to a seat. So those of you who have been standing, I'm going to invite you now either to sit in a chair or to sit on the floor. If you're sitting on the floor, I'm going to ask you to cross your right ankle in front of the left. So you're doing what we sometimes would call crisscross applesauce. That's what they call it in school these days, I guess. If that's not available to you, but you want to sit on the floor, just have one leg bent and the other leg straight. If you're in a chair, you can have the same cross, right leg in front of the left at the ankles, or if it's available to you, you're going to cross your left ankle over the right thigh. And this is much more intense, so see what works for you. Whether you've got the ankles crossed, one leg straight, the other leg bent, wherever you are, settle in for a moment and see if you can feel everything that we've done so far in our little practice today. In just a moment, we're going to do a forward fold, but if your body won't let you go very far forward, that's okay. With my legs crossed in this position, I can't go very far forward, so that's all right. But let's start by taking the arms up overhead, get a big reach here, and then start to lean forward until your body says that's it. And then let your hands come down wherever they are, and we'll rest here for a moment. Rest is a relative term. It might be intense and it's difficult to feel like you can really rest. So if that's happening for you, that's totally fine. You may want to back up until you feel like this is a place where you can breathe and let yourself soften a little bit. We're coming now toward the end of our practice, so we've just got a little more time together. But see if you can still keep that same level of awareness and interest that we've been working with this whole time. If it feels good here to lean or sway a little bit side to side, that's something that I do myself almost instinctively here. We'll take one more breath where you are. And then take your time to come back to the starting position. If you're in the chair with me, uncross your leg. If you're on the floor, you can keep your legs crossed unless you want to change the legs. We're doing a little twist. Take the arms up overhead here. We're twisting to the right. As you twist to the right hand can come toward the back of the chair, or it could come to the floor behind you if you're on the floor. If you feel like your chair is kind of in your way, I've got a folding chair, which is really convenient, but your chair may have like an arm that's kind of in the way. You might need to manipulate a little bit. All we're looking for here is a sense of length in the spine. And then we're turning around the spine, like we're just lightly pivoting the chest around that. See if you can ask the shoulders to relax a little bit here, if they're able. See if there's any tension hanging around in your neck or your jaw. And just ask that if it would be okay to let go a little bit. We'll take one more breath here in our twist. And then we're back around to center. Great. Now it's time to cross the legs the other way. Either left ankle crossed behind the right, other leg crossed on top of the thigh, those of you who are in the chair. Or if you're on the floor, you've got one leg straight, one leg bent, whatever you didn't do on the first side, right? Take a moment to settle it out, see if it feels comfortable, and then arms reach overhead when you're ready. and we lean forward. Pause here and notice. If we try to fight our way into greater flexibility, we're only reinforcing patterns of tension in our body. So the best thing we can do for ourselves when we're stretching like this is just to come to our edge, that place where we can't go any further, and then see if we can just let ourselves be right there. It feels a little counterintuitive, right? It might feel like, oh, I should push or pull a little bit more here. But actually, the less we do, the further we get. Sometimes maybe a little lateral movement, that little lean or sway or swoosh side to side feels good. Last breath here. And then we're all the way back to our starting position, bringing the spine more upright. If you're in a chair with me, you can uncross the legs. If you're on the floor, do whatever feels best with the legs. Here's our last twist. Arms reach up. Rotate your trunk to the left. Bring your left hand somewhere behind you. I'm holding on to the back of my chair for a little leverage. That feels nice to me today. But you don't need to do that, of course. You can have the hand anywhere that feels good. Notice what the shoulders are doing. Notice what your neck is doing. And see if you can just encourage maybe a little more softness or ease around the face, neck, jaw, and shoulders. See if there's anything here that feels good. And notice if you're kind of pulling or pushing yourself here. Once you're in the position, see if you can just kind of let it be a little bit, so we don't need to fight it. Last breath here. And then back around to center. Okay. Take your legs and move them around a little bit if you like. I'm just going to kick out and circle my ankles a little bit. If you're on the floor, you can move whatever way feels good. The next thing that we're doing together is just a little seated relaxation. So you can follow along if you like. If you want to lie down and take a traditional shavasana, where the arms and the legs are out to the sides, please feel free to do that. If you are seated and you have a pillow or a blanket handy, it might feel nice to rest that on the lap. So I'm just going to show that. So I have something to sort of rest my elbows on here. That feels nice today. And then I'm going to lean back into the back of my chair so I feel as supported as I can. If you'd like to close your eyes, you're welcome to, but you don't need to. You can keep them open if that feels better for you. Now, see if you can start to feel the places where your body is supported. So in my body right now, I'm feeling the back of the chair, holding my back up. I'm feeling my hips and lower back supported by the chair. I'm feeling my feet supported by the earth. And I'm feeling my arms resting on the legs. If you're on the floor, you might feel the back of your body. And then see if you can allow yourself to really accept that support. So rather than feeling like, oh, I'm going to have to get up in a moment, see if you can settle in a little bit, that feeling of not having to get up and move for a moment or two. What's that like? Check in with your shoulders. Notice if the shoulders are hiked up a little bit toward the ears, and gently walk the shoulder blades down toward the hips a little bit. Might feel good to turn the head gently side to side here. And if you feel ungrounded or unsettled at any time, please just open your eyes and reorient yourself to the room as needed. Now, as you breathe in, see if you can feel the belly, the sides of the waist, and the lower back expanding. As you breathe out, see if you can feel all of the places where your body is supported, the back, the shoulders, the feet, the hips. As you breathe in, feel that expansion at the midsection. The belly expands, the side waist expands, the lower back expands. And as you breathe out, feel the support of the chair or the floor holding you. Now we'll breathe in again. And this time when you breathe out, maybe you'd like to imagine that some of the stress or tension, some of the things that you have in your life right now that don't feel so good, let them drain out with the exhale into the earth, into the chair, into the floor. Breathing in now, you could invite new energy, a fresh start. And breathing out, we let go tension, stress, frustration, all of that exhaling away, draining out into the earth. Breathing in, maybe a sense of vitality or hope or lightness. And breathing out again, letting go of those things that we don't want so much of in our life. Imagining them like maybe gray or muddy air or water, just leaving us, just letting go. Let's take a few more breaths here, breathing in, inviting a new feeling, maybe something lighter. Breathing out those things that would hold us back or drag us down or keep us from doing the things we want to do. Those drop away a little bit more. Now, if you're having difficulty with that imagining, if it feels like that's a little difficult for you, just stay with the initial work of breathing in and feeling the belly expand. And breathing out, feeling yourself supported. That's a good place to stay. Let's take one more breath together here. Good. And now we'll start to wake up gently and kindly. If your eyes have been closed, you might blink them open. And it might feel good to reorient yourself a little bit with the room by looking around with the eyes, or by moving your body around a little bit so you feel where it is in space. Those of you who are lying down, you can start to awaken a little bit, move the body a little bit more. If you've been seated with me, maybe it feels good to move away from the back of the chair. And you might find that your body wants to stretch or move a little bit. I'm just reaching my arms up and around a little bit to move. And then before we close our practice, before we move on with whatever comes next in your day, let's just take one more moment to check in. See if you can feel how your body is right now. See if you can notice what kind of awareness you have of the sensations in the body or of your nervous system. Do you feel like you're calm or grounded? Do you feel focused? Do you feel aware? Do you feel energized? Do you feel a little sleepy? What does your mood feel like? Do you feel happy? Do you feel... I'm not going to invent emotions for you. See what you notice. I won't presume to guess. And then when you feel ready, if the eyes have been closed, you could blink them open. And if you like, we might bring the hands to the heart. This is up to you. If it doesn't resonate, please don't do it. But if it feels good, maybe the hands come to the heart and we just bow the chin to the chest here, just honoring the body, the mind, and the heart for all of the work that they did today. And honoring maybe this practice of yoga and all that it can offer to help us to be more conscious and aware and to work more skillfully with the challenges of our lives.